Wait.
We have unfinished business with the National Assembly, though it's not their fault. There was this National Research and Innovation Council bill that they passed into law and then sent it to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the President pointed out some grey areas in the bill and returned it to them. And then they are in the process of rectifying the bill and returning it to the President. But why we are really here is to appeal to them and in fact appreciate them for the efforts that they put into the passage of that bill. The bill has a long history. It is a product of the National Policy of Science and Technology, which was initiated in the 60s. The National Policy on Science and Technology was initiated in the 60s, and that was when most other nations that we hear about today, most other nations that are really, developing, galloping in terms of development, initiated their own. Nations like Brazil, Malaysia, Indonesia, India, South Korea. It was at that same time that, they all initiated their own science and technology policy. But the difference was that they funded it and we didn't fund our own. And between the 60s and now, we have reviewed our own science and technology policy 13 times without the necessary instrument for making it workable. And what is instrument? And that is institutionalized funding mechanism. Now, what does that mean? It's a system whereby you do not rely on budget allocation, yearly budget allocation for research. You have an institutional mechanism, institutionalized mechanism for funding research. And so the National Assembly 2 years ago now thought that it was time for us to now have the National Research and Innovation Council that will be responsible for coordinating and funding research in Nigeria. Now, you understand that we have more than 150 research institutions and their centers, because some institutions have up to 30 centers. So we are virtually in every state, there is the presence of a research institute, many research institutions. In Abuja alone, we have almost 25 research institutions at the headquarters, in Abuja. Now, we have this elaborate infrastructure for research in terms of building, established institutions and things. But we are now left with just infrastructure and the funding mechanism is not there. And the reason why this country is poor, we have asserted severally that this nation is naturally endowed. And we believe as researchers, I have been a researcher for 36 years, we believe that very few nations have the diversity, the quality and quantity of natural and human resources that Nigeria has. As a matter of fact, this was attested to by the ambassador to USA during the dinner party that the Minister of Science and Technology held last year. The ambassador said that Nigeria has everything, and even minus natural disaster. You understand that? And so we could be competing to be the #1 nation in terms of natural resources, natural, and human resources. And how a country that God created to be #1 in terms of natural and human resources has now become the poverty capital of the world is something that all of us, all Nigerian elites, should be concerned about. And there is only one way you can change this scenario or this narrative, and that is research. There's no other way you develop a country without the research way.
Okay, sir, let me cut it.
Yes.
The president is declining aspect for most of the bills.
Yes.
He's always complaining about funding. If this bill is passed, what about the
Beautiful. That is even why this bill is totally different. Because this bill is not making any demand on government fund anymore. The bill is going to draw its fund from established institutions that draw their fund from taxes. So there is really, we are not going to, to National Assembly to now ask for money. There are about 14 institutions that have been identified that get their money one way or the other, not from budget, but from taxes.